this managing group report project slideshow. I don't know. I don't know what level of detail I want to go into presenting this. Has anybody looked at this slideshow already? Yeah? What'd you think?
I mean, I just thought it was kind of interesting. I skimmed it briefly last night. I was really
Yeah.
interested.
Did you, like, just glancing at it quickly, did you get anything out of it?
Yeah, I honestly just kind of glanced quickly. I opened it up so I have it on my laptop instead. I think that's the only other thing.
Let me see if I can think of one thing I'd like folks to take away from this slideshow. Here's the one thing. This is the one. And it again gets with this idea of this group writing project is not about the destination, but more about the journey. And also gets at the idea that college classes are super unrealistic and in a lot of ways terrible, I think, preparation for real jobs. And it'll also give you a little bit more insight into me. When I was an undergraduate, I hated group work. Actually, honestly, I still hate group work. It's a pain. It's such a pain to have to depend on other people, right? For stuff that is important to your career. So I couldn't wait until I graduated, because then I'd start working like a real job where, you know, I really wouldn't have to deal with group work anymore. That was a shock. And also, I thought, yeah, in a real job, everyone's going to be really super motivated, so you'll never have to work with that guy, right? Like you do in college projects, you know what I'm talking about, that guy. That's not the case either. Even in real organizations, real companies, you have a whole spectrum of motivation. Sometimes you have the bad luck to have a really key group member in a project that you got tasked with who, like, maybe they're going through a divorce. Maybe the worst is maybe they just had their first baby. Oh. And they're operating on like 2 hours of sleep a day, maybe, you know. They're just always, their mind is always somewhere else. Or maybe they don't like the job and they're looking for another one, and they know that they're not going to be around for their next performance review. So you're always going to have to work with that guy sometimes. And so then bring it back to undergraduate, back before I knew any of this, and I thought, oh, group work is just something to get through, and then I'll never have to deal with it again in real jobs. So there were two strategies that I used for dealing with group work. The first strategy was, I gave it this label, firewalling. I would protect myself from any fallout to my grade of the project turning into a dumpster fire, right? Like, what do you think, just off the top of your head? I mean, especially folks that have looked ahead at the directions for this recommendation report group project I'm asking you to do. What could, if you get in a group of people and everything goes wrong, and like ultimately your group produces something, but it sucks. Like you produce like the worst report you could possibly imagine producing for this project. What do you think is the worst grade that you could get, practically, from me in this class for that project?
From you?
Yeah.
An F.
F. Ooh, 50? A 0?
I kind of think so.
Yeah. Wow. Anybody think I wouldn't do that? What about a typical college? Let's take it away from me, because otherwise it might get too real. What about like a typical, like, this is our group writing project? Like, what's the worst? What's the worst grade that anyone has ever gotten in a group project? Ish. C? C? It's like C the floor. Anybody gotten a D on a group project? We gotten a 0? No. So let's say a C, let's say a C minus, let's say a 70. It's like, it's a typical Texas Tech college course, group project. It's really the worst. It's C, 70. So here's what you do. When do group projects happen? The beginning of the semester or the end of the semester? Yeah, they happen at the end, right? So here's what you do at the beginning of the semester. I mean, just like this class. I mean, you can't, unfortunately, it's very difficult to organize a college class experience where the group work comes at the beginning, right? So just like this class experience, you've got 3 major individual projects before we even get to the group stuff. So you've already got like 50% of your grade, right? And then you're going to have like an individual portfolio project to do at the end. So, you know, the group project's like 33, 35%, I think, something like that. It's a third. So here's what you could do. You could kick ass in the beginning of the semester. You know, get through the individual projects with A's. A, so that when you get into your group, here's what you do. You do the math. Okay, 70%. Plug that in and see what it's. And let's say it shakes out to like, wow, I'll still have an A minus at worst. Like that's the worst case. A minus. Okay, here's what I did. I did that math when I was an undergraduate because why wouldn't you? And I hated group work. So I would try to, in the first part of the semester, get as high grades as I possibly could on the individual stuff so that when it came to the group work, here's what I would do. Calculate, it doesn't matter. We could essentially fail for a group project at 70. Still get the grade I want. Here's what I would do. Well, I hope the project goes well. You're going to find out about halfway through the project that I'm that guy. Because it doesn't make logical sense not to be. I've got other classes, and I've done the math, and I know that it's almost impossible for even a failed group project to affect my grade in this class. So, I'm going to be that guy. Right? It's like the prisoner's dilemma. It doesn't make any logical sense not to be. And here's why you can get away with that in a college class. Okay? Let's say that the 4 of us are in a group, right? And you discover like halfway through the project, oh, damn it, Art's that guy. Right? And it might make for some uncomfortable interpersonal meetings, right? But all I got to do is tough that out. And then at the end of the semester, and it's only like a 4-week project, right? And then semester's over. I'm out of here. Bye. Bye. And then the following semester, look at this. New classroom, new people. No one knows that I was that guy in the previous class. It's like P.T. Barnum. Sucker's born every minute, right? New class. And here's why you can't do that in a real job. In a real job, you don't like quit and start at a whole nother company every 16 weeks. You know, you got to live with people. So if this is our our working group, our sort of our division of the company, and I'm that guy on a project, I don't leave after the project is over. I just go back to my little office, right? Like right over here. And here's the thing, you're like at the coffee maker, water cooler, something like that. And someone comes up to you and they say, hey, how come you look like you're in such a bad mood today? And you're like, oh, dude, I just finished that project that Art was working on. God, he's such a dick. Oh, he was the worst to work with. Oh God. So glad I don't have to work with him at least on that project anymore. Right? And you're like, really? Huh. Wow, that Art guy, I don't know. And then later you're like, I heard that Art travels around, right? So then, let's say 6 months later, I'm sitting in my office wondering, how come I'm not getting any projects anymore? And then I'm like, hey, can I work? No, 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 you're going to do everything you can to give me the Heisman off of your project. Same for you, because now I've got the reputation of that guy. So reputation is what you are in a job. And so you can't, for long, take this strategy. It just doesn't work. So then, here's the other strategy. You transform it into an individual project. And that's where, if I was in classes, group project coming up, do the math of like, well, worst case, let's say 68, 70. I'm like, oh, man, I can't get a B unless we get at least like an A on this project. Oh. So here's what you do. And how many people have done this? You just turn it into an individual project. You say, oh, screw it, I'll just do the whole thing, right? And it sucks for those weeks, right? Because you're doing the work of 4 people or 3 or 2 or whatever. But you can do it, right? Because by definition, if it's a project in the class that you're taking, you have the skills to do the project, right? That's why it's a class project. Here's the thing with that. That doesn't work in a real world project either, because first of all, if one person could do the work, well, one person would be doing the work, right? I mean, organizations are not irrational. If you could do this all by yourself, you've got the time, we can task you with it, okay. But the reason why everything important will be done in a group is because if it's important, one person can't do it. For probably two fundamental reasons. First of all, one person just won't have the time, Like, this project will take 1,000 working hours, and we need it done in 2.5 weeks. Well, you're not going to do that as an individual. The math doesn't work. You need more bodies working on it. And second, you probably don't have all the expertise necessary. We need an engineer, an accountant, and a lawyer, because we need some engineering info in the project and expertise, we need some accounting info and expertise, and we need some law, regulatory info and expertise. So a lawyer can't do all that, because a lawyer is just a lawyer, not an engineer and accountant too. So you can't do that. You just can't. So that's the reason why I think college class group projects are horrible practice for the real world, because they only encourage 2 strategies, because it's such an artificial environment. Start a new class every 16 weeks. You can do the project, any project that's assigned, really as an individual if you drink enough coffee. Neither of those 2 things are going to apply in a real job. So that's why getting back to this project being a chance to practice a different style of working in a group and managing a group. It's an opportunity to practice a third way that can actually work in real jobs. So. But it's just an opportunity. Again, like my specific introduction to the group work plan assignment, when I said it's my advice to use it as realistic practice for really detailed planning, but you can make it a vague plan and still follow the liberal directions if you want. You can still take one of these 2 strategies if you want. It'll probably end up being more work and a less good outcome, but I can't force people to not do this. What I can do is be very explicit about saying, this won't work in the future, so opportunity to practice doing something different. It's an opportunity to practice. So I think that's the one take home that I was most hoping people would get from this slideshow, is this project is different potentially because I want it to be practice literally operating in a different way. And I want to be very explicit about that. So.